Well, you've shared your story with the world, with people that you don't know. But afterwards, when you got married and had your own children, what was it like sharing your life experiences with them, with people that were so close to you?
Well, myself and other survivors found it very difficult to talk about the past. I lived in the past. It was always in my system, in my memory, in my heart. But to talk about it, to verbalize the situation, it was difficult.
Right.
But after Schindler's List came out, I gave my testimony to Steven Spielberg. And then I decided if I can do it at once, I signed up at the Simon Wiesenthal Center. And since then, I speak regularly to thousands and thousands of visitors, students, educators, law enforcement officers. And you never get used to it, but because it's our obligation as survivors to remember and speak for the victims who have no voice, I felt it's my sacred duty to keep on and telling my story. And so I do it regularly, and it's a purposeful life. It has a lot of meaning, and I keep on doing it until my last breath.
I've seen you speak actually. You spoke at one of the clubs at our high school. You speak beautifully. Let me just tell you that now. I'm sure you've heard many, many times before, but you spoke beautifully. When was it, you mentioned that you were giving a speech, and then after that you came up with this idea of writing your book. How did that all plan out? Can you tell me a little about that?
Well, when you're engaged with the audience and they have questions, and they kept asking, did you ever write a book? And I said no, and they said, you must write a story. You have to tell from generation to generation so they can read about it when I will not be able to talk about it.
Yeah. Why don't we hold up your book right now for our viewers who haven't seen it before? Why don't we hold it up and show them what it looks like?
Here is the
Beautiful.
book.
Amazing
The title
story.
is If You Save One Life. My father's teaching was, if you save one life, like you save the whole world. So to honor my dad and 6 million victims who have no voice, I decided to give it the title.
Yeah. When you look back at the Holocaust and everything that happened and the pain that you went through during the first few days, not just the first few days, but throughout the whole experience, do you think that any life experience that you have had could compare?
Well, I don't compare, but when you go through such a difficult time, you die or you come back, and coming home made you a stronger and a better person, and you value your life differently, and you appreciate every single day.
Right. And you also mentioned when you were younger, you had 2 near-death experiences. Was it 1 or 2? When you were younger,
yes.
When you were around 2 years old, it said that you were sick, and you had a near-death experience.
Yes,
Okay.
when I was very young.
When you were very young. So you had one of those then,
Right.
and you had another one later?
No.
And then you had, okay, just one?
But I had 2 years ago, after my book was published, I had a doctor's appointment, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 leukemia.
Wow.
So if that's what you're talking about, that was a near life and death experience, because I had, and after I was diagnosed, I was taking chemotherapy for 1.5 years. And I was in the hospital for 3 months, and I was very sick. 7 doctors gave up on me, that I'm not going to make it. But 7 religious leaders, rabbis, chaplain, ministers, they all said they pray for me, and I will be all right.
Wow. And here you are today.
So here I am.
Here you are today.
Yes.
3 near-death experiences.
I'm in remission now, and I'm back to work at the Museum of Tolerance and elsewhere.
And going back to the Museum of Tolerance, you speak there once a week?
Yes,
Once a week. What's that like?
it's great. It always gives me a renewed interest to come back because the interest is there from the audience and they're engaged, and it's very important to remember. And so from generation to generation, and hopefully they learn and they will be a better person and better people, and no one will have to go through what we went through.
Right. If there was one thing that you could say to the guards that imprisoned you and your family and everyone else there, what would it be?
Now, I feel that forgiveness is very important, because if you carry all that hatred toward your enemy or anyone you have a disagreement,
Right.
you cannot live a full life.
Yeah.
So for me, it's important to forgive and do public service, try to get along. And this country gave us so much opportunity to try to give back, so the community will be safer and the country will be stronger. So I believe in public service, respect human life, have a family, and teach them from right to wrong, from evil to good.
Yeah.
And of course, faith in God is very important,
Yeah.
and a will to live.
Yeah. In your book, there was a part where an American soldier came up to you guys, and you were 65 pounds and you were 16 years old. And he looked at you and he said, "Point to the person that made you look this way." You had the chance to have that person, taken care of and for justice to be served. But you didn't. You didn't speak up. Why?
I didn't want to take the law into my hand, and because Father taught us, if you save one life, and I felt that I want to come home with a clear conscience. I didn't want revenge,
You didn't want
and I
revenge.
wanted to rebuild my life.
That's amazing for a 16-year-old at
And
that time to say
that's
that.
why I did not point my finger at my captors, because later on it was taken care of by the law enforcement.
Right.
And person like Simon Wiesenthal, who hunted down 1,100 Nazi officers and guards, and they were all punished, and I felt that justice was done later on.
Yeah. What kind of message are you trying to send to the world?
Today, I speak for 3 reasons. Number 1, to honor the 6 million who have no voice, and we are the witnesses to the truth. Number 2, so many educators say the Holocaust did not happen, and I want to make sure that they hear our story, that it did happen because we lived it. The 3rd reason, as I said, to forgive, not to be silent, do public service, and respect human life, and move on, and make the world a better place, that one person can have a mission and make a difference.
So deep down, the bottom of your heart, you've forgiven them?
Yes.
If there's one thing that you can say to them, what would it be? After you've forgiven them, what would it be?
We will always ask why. Why did it happen?